Hello, everyone. Happy Friday day. We are at the end of the week here, and I do enjoy doing the Friday streams as the last thing I do for a week because then when the stream is done, I'm on weekend mode and I get to relax. Uh, it's a gorgeous day here in Minnesota. Hope everybody is doing well. My name is Nate. If this is your first time tuning in, I am the marketing and community lead for Laterpress. And twice a week, Tuesdays and Fridays, I do streams showing off the Laterpress story tool set and working with it to produce a story. We are working on an urban fantasy rom-com about a couple who are meant for each other, but they both have their emotional baggage that they have to sort through. And their first date is a train wreck. So the app that paired them up traps them in a time loop where they have to date over and over and over again in a 60-minute loop until they have unpacked their baggage and realized that the app, who's kind of acting as an antagonist throughout, was correct and they are actually a great match for each other. So in prior streams, we've been working through things. We did a first pass on drafting the first date with a little bit of revisions on that. And rather than rehash all of that and spend another hour at the end of the week and continuing to edit through that chapter, I wanted to move on and do a little bit of working on the next beat and setting up some of what's going to come next. So we can kind of work out the plotting for the early time loops, maybe set some scene cards for that, and perhaps draft a chapter or two. This is going to be a lot of just messing around and seeing where things go. I have no firm plan or objective with where we need to end up at the end of the hour. I just want to embrace a little serendipity and see where things go. So I was doing a little bit of reading through this long beat card before the stream started, so I can already see that I'm going to want to make some substantial revisions to this because it's not lining up with where my sense is of where the story should be going. But let's start by reading through this just to see what we have initially, and then I'm going to try to modify what already exists. And from there, if I don't like the modification, I might completely wholesale try a new generation, and we'll go from there with things. So the last chapter ended with the time loop starting. So now in the early banter and conflict plot beat, the loop resets and neither Tessa nor Eddie has any idea why. One moment they were on the sidewalk, the date mercifully over, and now they're back at the table, menus in hand, the candle unscorched, the bread basket full. Tessa blinks. Eddie blinks. The server is asking if they'd like still or sparkling water, exactly as he did before. Tessa looks at Eddie. Eddie looks at Tessa. Neither says anything for a long, strange moment. Then they both start talking at once. Their first instinct is not time loop. Their first instinct is something is very wrong and it is almost certainly the other person's fault. And that's one detail I would edit there. I don't know why either of them would come to that conclusion. Tessa's working theory is that the resistance charm regulated ambience has malfunctioned, possibly triggered by some kind of emotional resonance event, and she begins methodically cataloging the sensory details around her to determine what's changed. Eddie's working theory is that a spirit has attached itself to one of them and is replaying a memory, which he has seen before and which is frankly a huge liability on a first date. He starts quietly scanning the room for ectoplasmic signatures. They are each running their own parallel investigation and have not yet thought to compare notes. Artemis, who's retained full memory of the disaster. Artemis is our female protagonist Tessa's familiar and a black cat. Artemis has already arrived at the correct conclusion, watches with the expression of a cat who's been asked to supervise two very confident people assemble furniture without instructions. She says nothing yet. She is waiting to see how long it takes. It takes a while. Eddie, mid-scan, notices that the couple at the corner table is having The exact same argument they were happening before, the same gestures, the same pause before the woman laughs. He points this out to Tessa in a low voice. Tessa, who has been discreetly checking whether the restaurant's ward sigils were intact, looks up and watches the couple for a moment. Ambient loop, she says, localized, probably a charm bleed from the kitchen. It's been doing a lot of like using charms or wards as catch-all gibberish without giving it any kind of grounding or context. So that's one of those things that I look at as kind of a flag where I need to step in and take some control. Eddie says because of his experience, when something strange happens, it is almost never ambient. Tessa says that in her experience, the most obvious explanation is usually correct. Eddie says the most obvious explanation is that they are trapped. Tessa says that is not the most obvious explanation, and again, we're kind of redundant. They are now technically having their first real argument, and neither of them have touched the bread. Artemis puts one paw on the table, says it's the app. Both look at her. She looks back. The app, she repeats with the patience of someone who has said the same thing twice. All right, and yeah, I don't need to read through all of this. We're gonna go modify this beat and say when the time loop resets and both characters are back at the table, Cupid announces its presence, its voice coming from both of their phones at the same time. It tells them that the dating will continue until compatibility improves. I cannot. COMPATIBILIT, is that how it's spelled? Tells them the dating will continue until compatibility improves. It does not provide them any context or explanations for what it has done, only admonishes them to take things seriously this time. It then goes silent, leaving Tessa and Eddie to figure out themselves what to do next. You are not allowed to use the words ward, charm, or sigil in any way. All right, so I'm copying that to my clipboard in case I want to run this again. And let's modify everything and have it to try to push things in a direction closer to how I want it and see it going. Do 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 do. This may take some time. Do 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 do. This may take some time. All right, the loop resets, and I'm just going to save. Well, no, I'm not going to save this yet because I want to dive in, probably edit it. The loop resets. Neither Tessa nor Eddie has any idea why. One moment they were on a sidewalk, the date mercifully over. Now they're back at the table. Yeah, both start talking at once. Before they can get far, both of their phones light up simultaneously. A voice, smooth, assured, and faintly amused, emanates from both devices at once, cutting through the restaurant's ambient noise with the confidence of something that has never once doubted itself. The dating will continue until compatibility proves. Smooth, assured, and faintly amused, not the words I would use. A voice, conveying the disappointment of a teacher with their slow students. And the voice an unamused no, just a voice unamused and conveying the disappointment of a teacher with their slow students emanates from both the voices at once, cutting through the restaurant's ambient noise. Yep. The dating will continue until compatibility approves. Tess stares at her phone. Eddie stares at his. The voice offers no explanation, no context, and no policy or apology. It does not tell them what it has done, how it has done it, or what the rules are. It simply adds with a tone of disappointed instructor. Oh, I guess my idea is exactly what it says later. All right, then let's change this to an unamused voice emanates from both voices at once. Take things seriously, time. Then it goes silent. Their screens return to their normal lock screens. No identification, no interface, nothing. Just delete that. They sit in, okay, yep, their first instinct is not cooperation. Their first instinct is something is very wrong, and it is almost certainly the other person's fault. All right, I did modify existing, so it's choosing to stick pretty close here to what it originally had. This is working theories. The restaurant ambient enchantments have malfunctioned. No. No. Yeah, we're gonna cut their gibberish explanations. Eddie notices that the couple in the corner is having the same argument they were having before. Points this out to Tessa in a low voice. Okay, now they're not gonna. If I'm having the app declare that they are trapped there until compatibility improves, I don't know. Well, maybe they blame each other. Um, I don't. That's not the direction I would go with it. And he notices a couple in the corners having an argument. Yep. We're gonna cut all of the babble out of here. We're gonna strip all of this down. let's strip all that out, save. So saving this highly reduced version. Realizing that time have he points out, so he sees that they're having the same argument. He points this out to Tessa. Tessa then takes another look at her phone and realizes the time has gone back to when their date would have first started. Realizing now that the two debate, I'm going to leave this vague because I kind of want the serendipity of seeing how things are going to come up, what it's going to come up with. The two debate strategies for breaking the time loop. Okay, save that. And now let's have it generate some scenes. And let's see some specific instructions to piggyback off of that. Stay away from technobabble explanations for what might have caused the time loop. Have each of them be more focused at this stage on trying to escape than actually have a meaningful date with each other. Neither of them are rude or confrontational with the other, but at this stage, they are not yet ready to sincerely make an effort at getting to know each other after how badly it went the first time they tried. I'm going to give it a little bit of direction on where I want it to go with things. Now we'll have it generate some scenes. And of course, this always takes a little bit of time. But this is a story with using AI tools, and part of your process is that they will work very fast. You'll have a little bit of loading time, but most of their time spent working with AI It's actually on the front end, either setting up your prompts or your notes or the the information you want to give the AI, or it's on the back end, auditing the results, making edits and revisions as needed, so that make things line up with your vision, and then going from there. Okay, so it generated 5 chapters and scene cards. That is likely more than I would want before getting into force proximity, because by this loop, uh, we've got here, by the third loop, Tess and Eddie have accepted the grim reality. Cupid will not release them until it's satisfied, and the 60-minute window is their entire world. They attempt to simply wait it out in stubborn silence at the restaurant, but Cupid has other plans. The app begins alternating the loop's conditions. This time, instead of resetting them to the restaurant, they find themselves locked inside a haunted escape room that has materialized. So it's throwing up other stuff, which does need to happen because a loop of the same restaurant and the same thing happening over and over and over again would very quickly get boring. But we would change how some of this happens. That's why I left myself a note here. This feels like a departure from the loop format too early on. At this stage, I want the characters to agree they want to get out of here, but disagree on how. They agree to each take a turn to decide how they do that. Both attempts end in total failure. So we probably don't need five. We don't need 5 chapters between this and this, but I want to see what it has come up with here, because some of these could be combined potentially, or I just take the best ones and go with those. So we've got here, the loop resets for the first time. Tess and Eddie are mid-sentence on the sidewalk outside the restaurant, and the failed date behind them, when reality lurches and suddenly they are back at the table, menus in hand, the candle intact, the breadbasket full, and the scorched tablecloth pristine. Tessa registers at first. The time on her phone has been rewound to the start of their date. Eddie notices the couple in the corner booth having the same argument, the same gestures, the same pause before the woman laughs, which was not a detail that even existed in the past chapter, so I'd have to make sure I'm adding that in for continuity or changing those details. They stare at each other in stunned silence, each waiting for the other to confirm they are not losing their minds. They then both start talking at once. Tessa asking if he remembers the fire, Eddie asking if she remembers the check, and the overlap itself becomes confirmation. Before they can get far, both phones light up simultaneously. Cupid's voice cuts through the restaurant with an absolute, unruffled authority. The dating will continue until compatibility improves. It offers no explanation, no mechanism, no apology. It adds, in the tone of a disappointed instructor addressing 2 students who showed up unprepared, take things seriously this time. When the screen goes dark, returning to their normal lockout screens, Tess and Eddie sit in the middle of the ringing silence. Excuse me, processing. Artemis pokes her head out of the tote bag, looks at both of them, and says flatly, "So we're trapped." Wonderful. And this one's Eddie's point of view. In the immediate aftermath of Cupid's announcement, Tessa and Eddie launch into a rapid overlapping debate about what just happened and what to do about it. Eddie wants to act. Tessa wants to observe first. She agrees they should stay put, gather data, note every detail that repeats and every detail that changes, figure out what to do before they do anything rash. Neither is hostile. They both are clearly shaken and defaulting to their comfort zones. Eddie's urgency reads as restless energy rather than aggression, and Tessa's caution reads as methodical rather than dismissive. They talk over each other politely, each making reasonable points, but fundamentally unable to agree on a first step because their instincts are diametrically opposed. Artemis, sitting on the table now and watching the volley like a tennis match, observes that they are already wasting minutes of their 60 arguing about how not to waste minutes. This lands and they both go quiet. Eddie suggests a compromise. They split up, each tries something different, and compare notes when the loop resets. Tessa agrees, visibly relieved to have a plan that doesn't require them to coordinate further. They stand and nod at each other with the awkward courtesy of two coworkers assigned the same project and head in opposite directions. Neither acknowledges that this is technically still their date. Eddie's escape attempt plays out across the remaining minutes of the loop. He leaves the restaurant at a brisk walk, heading for the nearest transit station, convinced that if he can physically get far enough from the date's location, the loop might lose its hold. The streets of Horizon are alive with their usual evening energy. Wordlit storefronts, I told you that word is banned. Minor enchantments flickering in bar windows, commuters ignoring a small illusory street performance. Eddie moves with purpose, checking his phone every few minutes to watch the clock count down. He tries calling Dev to explain what's happening. But the moment he starts describing the loop, his words tangled. The magical NDA, non disclosure agreement, kicks in, turning his urgent explanation into a cheerful, vague ramble about having a really memorable evening. He hangs up, frustrated. He reaches the transit platform, boards the train, watching the city scroll past the windows, feeling a surge of hope as the restaurant falls behind. But as the clock hits the 60-minute mark, the world stutters, lights flicker, sound drops out for half a second, and Eddie is back at the table, menu in hand, breadbasket full. Tessa across from him, already looking at him with the expression of someone whose own attempt has also failed. Eddie exhales, sets down the menu, and says, "Running didn't work." Tessa replies, "Staying didn't either." Artemis from the tote bag mutters, "Shocking." So one thing I would note here is that it did not specify 60 minutes, but it's already noted in some of these follow-up scene descriptions. So I would need to cut the specifics out because they don't yet know that it's a 60-minute time loop. That is something they need to figure out and discover. But the sequence here is it does have their initial finding out, them arguing about what to do about it, Eddie's initial escape attempt. So we do have some progression across each of these points. Uh, Tessa's parallel escape attempt. So this is one where I'm going to read this to see what it's got, but we want Eddie's or Tessa's, I think, not both. That's kind of redundant to the plot point. Tessa's parallel escape attempt unfolds at the restaurant table. After Eddie leaves, she stays seated, pulls out a notebook, and begins documenting everything she can observe: the exact time on the clock, positions of other diners, the song playing on the restaurant speakers, specific words the couple in the corner booth are saying. She is meticulous and focused, treating the loop like a clinical case study she can solve through observation. She tries to call a colleague who specializes in enchantment theory, but the NDA intercepts her again. She finds herself saying, "I'm just having a really interesting night out." In a bright, hollow voice that horrifies her, she hangs up and stares at her phone. Artemis watches from the table. Tessa insists that understanding the pattern is doing something. She flags down the server and asks pointed questions about the restaurant. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. So I'm cutting this one because it just has us at the same location, kind of treading water. And make sure that this is... Oh, yeah, duh. Okay, I deleted the scene card, but that still leaves the chapter there. I need to delete. I should have just deleted the whole chapter. Okay. So then the ending of what it generated is the third loop begins, and Tessa and Eddie are both noticeably more afraid. They agree with stiff politeness that since individual attempts failed, they should try coordinating, but the conversation about how to proceed quickly becomes its own friction point. Eddie proposes they leave the restaurant together and confront Cupid directly, maybe find an Aphrodite Inc. office or kiosk in the city and demand answers. Tessa counters that Cupid is an app, not a person standing behind a desk. And then marching into a corporate lobby at 9 p.m. demanding to speak to a manager is not a strategy. Eddie says at least it's action. Tessa says action without direction is just panic with better posture. The exchange is not mean spirited. There's even a flicker of reluctant amusement on both sides, but it is clear neither trusts the other's instincts yet. They are allies of circumstance, not choice. Artemis, who has been listening from Tessa's lap, suggests they're spending more energy disagreeing with each other than disagreeing with the thing that trapped them. This produces a brief, uncomfortable silence. They ultimately agree to Eddie's plan simply because neither has a better one. They leave the restaurant for the first time, walking side by side into the horizon night with the tense energy of two people coordinating under protest. In the background, unnoticed by either of them, an elegant woman sitting alone at a bar watches them leave with quiet, knowing interest, swirls her wine, smiles faintly, and does not follow. Oh, I think I see why that one paragraph about the random woman that I cut in the other chapter. I'm remembering why that was in there now. I am remembering why I did that. So I probably need to put it back in, but I do need to be more subtle about it because that is a character, actually. Okay. So the first date itself was Tessa's. The first date itself was Tessa's point of view. So if we're going to alternate, then I think Eddie is the point of view character for this one. I'm going to change this to Eddie. Going to leave everything else for the same for the moment. We're going to get rid of Artemis inserting herself into the situation. That would transfer into. Okay, so this next one needs to be, this part needs to be trimmed because that feels like that's going to overlap a lot with how the last scene starts, and we don't want the redundancy. I'm going to modify this. The characters do not yet know this, do not yet know for sure this is a time loop or even how much time they have. I'm just gonna give it that one instruction and see how it makes what it makes everything else. Okay, in the immediate aftermath of Cupid's announcement, Tessa and Eddie launch into a rapid overlapping debate about what just happened to do. He really wants that to be a thing. No. Well, actually, you know what? I'm going to leave it and see what it generates, and then maybe edit off of that. All right, and there's another. The word loop hasn't entered their vocabulary yet. I would have to keep a close eye on how it writes that. Eddie wants to act. He suggests they leave the restaurant immediately, test whatever just happened, see how far they can go before something changes. Tess wants to observe first. Fundamentally unable to agree on the first step because their instincts are diametrically opposed. Okay, yeah. Okay, this is better. We don't yet know the clock situation. Okay, save that. I think this plus this would be one chapter. I'm going to make this Eddie's point of view as well. What is the... Okay, no, that's not... Cancel that. Why are we doing first person now? Yeah, the book settings. Third person limited. Okay, come on back down here. We'll see if this is still going to be, if this is a bug I need to follow up on. Generate the text of the, am I on the right chapter? Yes. All right, that's better. All right, it's properly third person, but I think it's, I wanted this to be from Eddie's, and I think it's Tess's. Okay, and the dating will continue until compatibility approves. All right, I'm seeing repetition in lines, which is going to need to be edited down. All right, how many words did that end up being? 2,494, and that will be pruned down some more. I think this. Okay, they're not yet doing anything to actively fix that there. Here's where we need to. So I think this is going to be the second half of that chapter. And then this should be Eddie. That's Eddie's escape attempt. Okay, I'll come back to that. That's probably outside where we're going to get today. Okay, so I want to generate this one. And I'm probably going to treat these as one chapter. Nope, it's writing the. So there, it did start with a little bit of overlap. But now it's going in a different direction with it. Okay, I think this will be a good place to leave it for the week, actually, because smashing these two chapters together is going to take some time. And I think that would actually be a good topic for stream in its own right. Is okay, you've got text from two different scene cards, two different generated chapters. How do we make those a happy marriage of each other? So yeah, we'll generate things here. I think I then called that a stream, and that's where we'll start on Tuesday. Is looking to fuse the two chapters together into one cohesive whole, and then continue moving forward. This is 1,186. Yeah, the two of those I think land at about the right length. So it'll be a matter of some combination, and then once things are combined, seeing where to expand it, where to contract it. So yeah, that is a good topic for next time, and that's something I can get into in 15 minutes. So I think we'll call today's stream there, showing a little bit of editing a beat card and auditing the quality of scene cards, and then generating some initial chapters. So some progress there, and we will pick up this thread on Tuesday. But want to thank everybody for hanging out, and